think, act, and prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show, where we think, act, and prosper. Today, this video is brought to you by the Rules Symposium. Be sure to check out Rick Rule's annual symposium, where he brings some of the greatest minds in the natural resource investing space. This year is going to be at Boca Raton in Florida. So be sure to click the link in the description to check that out. That is going to be a great event, and I think that he's going to have some of the great minds there, such as Danielle DiMartino Booth and Jim Rickards. So be sure to check out that link in the description. So today, we are going to dive into one of Lyn Alden's recent articles. So I encourage you all to check out Lyn Alden's articles and her newsletter, where you can sign up for it. It's very cheap. It's about $25 a month. Be sure to check that out. She's not paying me to say that. I just say that because I genuinely love her product. So let's dive into this. So she just straight goes after policymakers next, politicians next, economists next. And she just tells it how it is. And that's what I appreciate about her. But, she talks about inflation, and she talks about how the average people are being impacted by the incompetencies of our politicians and policymakers. And so we're going to dive into that. And I hope that you all are frustrated about that too. So let's go ahead and get into this. All right, now, so we're on lynalden.com, as you can see. So let's go ahead and read this. Policymaker and economist confusion. A number of policymakers and economists have expressed confusion as to why consumer sentiment is low, despite low official unemployment. I would put forth that they are generally out of touch and not looking at the right data. And specifically, they are blinded by nominal data. So nominal means that, the price is going up, but it's not adjusted for inflation, right? So, for example, the average wage is up 6.1% over the past year. That's a nominal number, while broad inflation is up over 8.5%. So the average person got an inflation adjusted wage cut of over 2.4% this year. So that is the real wages right there. It's negative 2.4% because you take your average wage of what you got for an increase, and you minus inflation, the inflation number from that. They can buy less stuff with their quote unquote higher wages. And that 8.5% figures includes a wonky owner equivalent rent metric, which understates and smooths out actual housing inflation. The real cost of living for many people probably rose by low double digits over the past year. And owner's equivalent rent is not the truth. I mean, they're not taking the actual data of what people are actually paying for rent. I believe they do a survey of homeowners and ask them what they would charge themselves rent or something like that, something crazy. So let's get back to it. For example, the CPI basket of meat, fish, poultry, and eggs is up 14% during the past year, which is more than twice the rate of average wage growth. Nationwide median rents for new move-ins rose at a similar rate. Gasoline prices are up 57% during that period. The Case-Shiller U.S. National Home Price Index is up 20% over the past year, while mortgage rates went up 3% from 3.0% to 5.5%. The monthly cost of a $300,000 house, 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 3% is $1,265. The monthly cost for a $360,000 house, this is a 20% increase for the same house. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage at a 5.5% is $2,044. That is a 62% increase in monthly cost for a mortgage on the same house in the span of a year due to higher price of the house and higher financing costs. So mortgage rates have went up. They're actually at 6 point something percent now, since the Fed's raising rates and such. And it says while wages were up 6.1%. I mean, people are spending 62% 8% more on their housing when they buy a home, while their wages are up 6.1%. No wonder consumer sentiment is so low, especially among people who don't already own a house. People are running in place with their progress moving backwards over the past year. The money supply expansion of 2020 and 2021 is starting to hit them here in 2022. The federal government spent over $6 trillion into the economy since the start of 2020. Depending on how you measure it, that comes out to around $46,000 per American household. Now, did your household receive anywhere near $46,000 in stimulus directly or indirectly? No, that's because a lot of it didn't go to the typical household. Stimulus checks and child tax credits were just a part of it. A big chunk of it went to PPP loans that turned into grants for some of the richest Americans. This was very helpful for some small businesses, but for other small businesses which had no plans to lay off employees anyway, it went straight to the bottom line of the often wealthy owner of that business. Another big chunk went to corporate bailouts and went to other forms of malinvestment, with the classic Cantillon effect in action. So I don't know if y'all received a PPP loan, but I know people that received thousands of dollars for the PPP loans, 20,000 or whatnot, and they got it forgiven. And so she is right about this. And there were a lot of people that pocketed that money that did not need it. So, she is right about how the malinvestment and the misuse of the funds of the stimulus and how that went down. Obviously you had the unemployment thing too, and you had a lot of scams with that, and people just filing for unemployment that weren't even the person that that they claimed they were. It was a lot of scams. It was bad. So then she goes into the Cantillon effect. So the Cantillon effect is pretty much how the money supply grows really, really fast, and then that money goes to the big corporations and the big players that are at the table first, and they are able to spend that money in the economy, getting those resources and consumption items cheaper than when the money gets down to the average citizen and they get their check. Then usually inflation has already started increasing because the money supply was increased, and it comes at a lag. So the people that get the money first are able to buy goods and services cheaper than the people at the bottom. So, but we're gonna read it more. The Cantillon effect describes the uneven effect inflation has on goods and assets in an economy. Since new fiat money is injected into an economy at specific points, its effects are felt by different people and industries at different times. This causes a distortion in relative prices and benefits certain parties while disadvantaging others. When new money is added to the economy, it will naturally raise the price of goods and assets. However, not all prices will rise by the same amount or at the same time. The Cantillon effect asserts that the first recipient of the new supply of money has an arbitrage opportunity of being able to spend money before prices have increased. Those are the people at the table. This is partially due to the fact that new fiat money is created at almost zero cost and given to specific parties, usually banks. These banks have an opportunity to spend this money on goods and assets whose price has not yet reflected the increase in the money supply. So let's say, for example, housing. Banks can thus buy goods at a discounted rate. As the new money flows from central banks to private banks to investors to ordinary citizens, prices gradually begin to reflect the increase in the money supply. By the time ordinary citizens experience the increased money supply, they will be buying goods at higher prices. Thus, the flow of new money through the economy is beneficial to parties that receive the funds first and less beneficial to those who receive it later on. The individuals and institutions closest to the central banks and asset owners are granted financial advantages at the cost of those least connected to the financial system. The stimulus efforts could have been done in a more bottom-up way, but were not. The ironic thing is that to whatever extent fiscal and monetary policymakers are successful at reining in inflation, via their current plan going forward, that would primarily be from demand destruction. In other words, they're trying to create more unemployment and recession-like conditions in order to reduce demand and supply mismatches and thus reduce prices. At worst, with rising credit spreads, it could mean that supply starts getting restricted as well. This likely won't boost consumer sentiment much either, for obvious reasons. This isn't 1980 in terms of debt or energy situation. Until energy is abundant and cheap again, or wages are rising faster than inflation, consumer sentiment likely won't be high. The attempt to reduce demand via a recession is like putting a Band-Aid over a gunshot wound. Wow. I share her frustration. I mean, you know, and I don't know if y'all know Lyn Alden's story or whatnot, but Lyn Alden was homeless at one point, and she worked her butt off to get to where she's at, and you know, and so she can relate to us. Like, she wasn't born with a silver spoon, and so thinking about this is like, this makes me very frustrated because that money did go to the higher ups and they spent the money in the economy. Imagine, you know, when the money was first, issued, you know, and the big banks and corporations were able to get them, and they were able to buy housing cheap before the housing prices started increasing, or buy stocks cheap before stocks started really going up a whole lot. You know, things like that, cryptos, you know, and other goods and services. So they were able to receive that money. And by the time, you know, the average citizen like you and I received that money, prices were already going higher. Prices were already high. Housing prices were already increasing. You know, stock prices were already increasing and such. And so, you know, it's messed up just how that works. And, you know, I share her frustration in that. So I just wanted to drop that bomb. I mean, well, she dropped the bomb, but I just wanted to highlight what she dropped. Be sure to leave a comment down below. What do you think about that? Be sure to check out her newsletter. I mean, it's only $25 a month. I know inflation's hitting our pockets, but I'm sure you can sacrifice, you know, a burger or something, you know, every week, you know, to buy this. So I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit the subscribe, and I want to thank you all for joining the Money Level Show. Peace.